You slide the last tray back into the display case. You do it carefully, the way they trained you. Velvet side down, diamond side up, each piece angled at exactly 45 degrees so the light catches it properly. The woman browsing near the emerald necklaces glances over and you smile at her, the professional smile, warm but not too warm, helpful but not hovering. She smiles back and returns to the emeralds. You straighten your jacket, you check the time, 4 minutes until close. This is your third year at Hargrove Fine Jewelers. You know every piece in this store the way a librarian knows books. Not just the price, not just the carat weight, not just the cut and the clarity, but the story. The sapphire bracelet that came from an estate sale in Vienna, the pair of canary diamond earrings that a film producer bought for his wife and then returned 6 weeks later without explanation, the antique brooch in the back corner of the third case that nobody ever asks about but that, is worth more than everything else on that shelf combined. You know this store, you love this store. That is the part that matters later. You lock the front door at 6. You count the register. You set the alarm and you step out into the evening and you walk 3 blocks to the subway and you ride it home to the apartment you share with your younger brother, Darius, who is 23 and studying architecture and has a laugh that fills whatever room he is standing in. You make pasta, you watch something on television you will not remember tomorrow, you sleep. You do this for 3 years and it is enough. It is genuinely enough. And then Darius gets sick. Not a small sickness, not the kind that resolves itself with rest and fluids and a prescription you can fill at the corner pharmacy. The kind with a name that takes a moment to absorb when the doctor says it out loud in the small beige office with the diplomas on the wall and the tissue box on the table that suddenly makes sense. The kind with a treatment plan and a specialist and a number at the bottom of the first invoice that you read 3 times because you are certain you are misreading it. You are not misreading it. You have savings. You have decent savings for someone your age, the result of 3 years of careful living and a mother who taught you that money in the bank is sleep at night. Your savings last 4 months. After that, there is the credit card, then the second credit card, then the personal loan from the bank where the loan officer looks at your paperwork and back at you with an expression you will spend a long time trying not to remember. After that, there is nothing except the number at the bottom of the invoice that keeps growing the way numbers do when someone you love is fighting to stay alive. A man named Stellan finds you in the break room at Hargrove on a Tuesday afternoon in November. You have seen him before, a collector, the kind who comes in twice a year and spends without flinching. He has kind eyes and he speaks quietly and he sits across from you at the small table next to the microwave and he puts a number on the table the way your bank statements never do, written on a note card in clean, even handwriting. He slides it across to you. You look at it for a long time. He says he knows the store, he knows the layout, the case positions, the alarm system, and its gaps. He says he has been watching Hargrove for 2 years, and what he needs is someone on the inside, someone who knows which pieces are worth the risk and which are not, someone who can leave a specific window unlatched on a specific night and walk away clean. He says your name will never appear anywhere. He says it will look like a professional outside job. He says nobody gets hurt. You push the note card back, he leaves it where it is, and he stands and he says to think about it, and he puts on his coat and he goes back to the floor and spends $40,000 on a pair of cufflinks without breaking eye contact with you through the display glass. You think about it for 6 days. You think about Darius in the hospital bed with the tubes and the monitors and the laugh that has gotten quieter. You think about the invoice. You think about the note card. You call the hospital billing department on the 7th day, and the woman on the phone is not unkind, but she is clear, and clarity from a billing department at this stage only means one thing. You call Stellan. The first job is a Wednesday. You leave the bathroom window unlatched, the one at the end of the hallway near the stockroom that the camera in the corner covers at an angle that creates a blind spot you discovered by accident 18 months ago when you were reorganizing storage. You go home, you make pasta, you do not sleep. At 2 a.m., your phone buzzes once. That is the signal. In the morning, you come in and you discover the case along the east wall has been opened and 4 pieces are missing, and you call the police exactly the way someone who had nothing to do with it would call the police. Voice tight, hands shaking, because your hands actually are shaking. The detective who takes your statement has tired eyes and a notepad, and he asks his questions and writes your answers and thanks you for your time. You answer everything. You are helpful. You are appropriately distressed. You are very, very good at this for someone who has never done it before. 3 days later, an envelope appears in your mailbox. You do not open it until you are inside with the door locked. The number inside matches the number on Stellan's note card exactly. You sit at the kitchen table and look at it and feel something you cannot name, and then you go to the hospital and you pay the invoice and you watch the number at the bottom go to 0, and you sit in the chair beside Darius and he squeezes your hand and says, "Thank you," and his laugh, when it comes, is a little louder than last week. You tell yourself it was a one-time thing, even as you think that it is not a one-time thing. The second job is a month later. Stellan has a buyer for the Vienna sapphire bracelet. He knows its provenance, its value, and he knows that Hargrove's insurance will cover it fully within 90 days with minimal investigation because the owner, Gerald Hargrove, is 71 years old and has been through this twice before and will take the settlement and raise the premiums and keep selling. You tell yourself Gerald Hargrove will be fine. You tell yourself nobody is getting hurt. You leave the window unlatched. You go home. You make pasta. You do not sleep. The envelope comes. You pay 3 more invoices. If you are getting value out of this story, please subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it means everything to this channel. Stay with me, because what happens next changes everything. By the 4th job, you have stopped shaking. By the 6th, you have developed preferences. Not all of the pieces Stellan wants are worth the risk. You have learned to read a piece not just for its market value, but for its traceability, its distinctiveness, the likelihood that a buyer will ask questions versus the likelihood that it will disappear quietly into a private collection somewhere with no paperwork and no history. You have opinions about this now. Stellan listens to them. He starts calling you before he identifies targets. Your input shapes the jobs. You have become, without any formal agreement or acknowledgement, the architect of something you once only unlocked a window for. Darius finishes his first full treatment cycle in the spring. The specialist uses words that mean the numbers are moving in the right direction, and Darius laughs the real laugh in that office, and you press your hand over your mouth and stare at the ceiling and breathe. You go back to Hargrove the next morning. You straighten the trays. You angle the diamonds at exactly 45 degrees. You smile at the woman near the emeralds. You initial the inventory log. You feel for the first time in almost a year like the floor is solid beneath your feet. Then Stellan calls and says he has found something extraordinary. The Voss collection. You know the name immediately. Anyone in the jewelry world knows the name. A private collection assembled over 4 decades by a Swedish industrialist, currently on loan to the Meridian Gallery across the city for a 3-month exhibition. 6 pieces, each one documented, cataloged, photographed from every angle known to every serious buyer and institution on 3 continents. The centerpiece is a necklace called the Voss Star, a round-cut diamond of extraordinary size set in a collar of Burmese rubies, insured for more than your building is worth. You tell Stellan no. You tell him the Voss collection is not a jewelry store window. You tell him these pieces are too documented, too watched, too known. There is no quiet disappearance for something like the Voss Star. There is only noise and exposure and the kind of investigation that does not have tired eyes and a notepad. Stellan says he has a buyer already, pre-arranged. Private collector, no questions, full payment on delivery, transfer within 48 hours to a location nobody will look. He says the number he puts on the table this time is enough to cover Darius for the next 2 years of treatment, with enough left to pay off the apartment and put something real away for the future. He says this is the last one. He uses those words specifically, the last one. He says it with the conviction of someone who has probably said it before. You know what those words mean. You have known for a long time what those words mean, and you say yes anyway, because Darius is in remission and not yet recovered, and the invoices are not stopping just because the numbers are moving in the right direction. The Meridian job requires 3 weeks of preparation. You visit the gallery 4 times as a regular visitor, notebook in hand, studying the pieces the way an admirer would, which you are, genuinely, even now, even knowing what you are planning. The Voss star is extraordinary in person. It does not look like something that belongs to money. It looks like something that belongs to light. You stand in front of it for a long time on your 3rd visit, and a docent comes to stand beside you and tells you its history, and you listen and you nod and you feel something complicated and heavy moving through your chest. The night of the job is a Thursday in October. Stellan has 3 people on his team besides you. Your role is to have been there, in the system, on the visitor logs. A known admirer of the collection whose presence in the building earlier that day creates a thread that Stellan's people will use to explain an access point without tying it to the team. It is a more complex architecture than anything you have done before. More people, more moving parts, more places for something to go wrong. Something goes wrong. You do not know what specifically. You are home when it happens, standing in your kitchen, pasta water coming to a boil, watching your phone the way you have watched it 8 times before. The buzz does not come at 2 a.m. Instead, at 2:17, your phone rings. Not a buzz, a call. Stellan's voice is different from any version of it you have heard before. Compressed, flat, stripped of everything except information. He says the team got out. He says the pieces are in transit. He says there was a guard who was not supposed to be there on a rotation that was not on any schedule they had reviewed, and the guard saw one of Stellan's people, and now there is a description, and the description is moving through a system that moves very fast when it involves a collection like the Voss. He says your name came up on the visitor logs. He says to stay calm. He hangs up. You turn off the pasta water. You sit at the kitchen table in the quiet apartment and you think about the way the Voss star looked under the gallery lighting, the way it held the light and redistributed it, the way the docent's voice went soft with something like reverence when she described how the industrialist acquired it. You think about Darius and his laugh and the numbers moving in the right direction. You think about the Vienna bracelet and the tired detective with the notepad. You think about every window you left unlatched. The knock on the door comes at 6 a.m. You are already dressed. You have been sitting at the table for 4 hours, and somewhere in those 4 hours, you made a decision without quite deciding, the way you made every decision in this chapter of your life. Gradually, and then all at once, you open the door. There are 4 of them. 2 in uniform, 2 in plain clothes with badges on their belts. The one in front, a woman with short hair and the particular patience of someone who does not need to hurry because they already know how this ends, says your name as a question even though it is not a question. You step back from the door. You let them in. You do not say anything that requires a lawyer to undo. You sit at the kitchen table, your kitchen table, where you counted the envelopes and paid the invoices and made your pasta and told yourself it was a one-time thing, and you answer their questions and you tell them everything you know about Stellan, which is not as much as they want, and more than enough to be useful. It does not matter. The usefulness is not the part that determines what happens next. The visitor logs are the part. The pattern across 8 jobs is the part. The gap between what a jewelry store employee earns and what your bank account contains is the part. The DA assembles these parts into something that your lawyer, a calm man in a gray suit who has done this before, tells you is significant. He is not wrong. You plead in the spring. Stellan, it turns out, had a longer history than he shared with you, and the DA is interested in that history more than yours, and the negotiation that your lawyer conducts in rooms you are not in produces an outcome that is not good, but is measurably less bad than it could have been. 5 years. Minimum security. Eligible for review at 3. Darius comes to see you the week before you report. He sits across from you at the kitchen table and he does not say anything for a while, and then he says your name the way he said it when he was small and scared and needed you to tell him something true. You tell him you are sorry, you tell him you would do it again, which is the truest thing you have said in a long time and also the most complicated. He nods. He does not laugh. The apartment is very quiet. You report on a Tuesday morning. You wear the same jacket you wore to Hargrove on your first day 3 years and an entire life ago. You do not know why, it just seemed right. The Voss star is recovered 8 months later in a private residence in another country. It is returned to the Meridian Gallery, where the docent with the reverent voice probably stands beside it again and tells its history to visitors who stand and stare and feel something complicated and heavy moving through their chests. The light still moves through it the same way. It does not know what it cost.